Masters. Anyways, introducing the players of this very last game here. Spawning in the bottom left hand side of Yonsu. It is going to be the Red Zerg player playing for Team Acer. It is Paranoid.
It is Paranoid, wondering what his opponent's up to. Speaking of the opponents, playing Protoss in blue in the top right hand position of Yonsu. I love this map. It is genius. You know, this map kind of reminds me of like a MOBA map.
It looks a little bit like it, yeah, with that split personality almost there. There's two sides. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of what was that called? Dual Sight, or what was it? Like that really old map.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, Dual Sight was the name. It was Dual Sight was a lot smaller than this.
Yeah,
though.
definitely.
I mean, both two-player maps, but Dual Sight was tiny. I remember it being very Zerg friendly as well, because the expansions, even your natural was hard to take on Dual Sight.
Yeah, you basically had three paths you could go into that natural, so it basically was undefendable. Anyways, that was a long time ago, maybe even 2 years from now, or 2 years in the back.
What amazes me is how long it took them to phase it out of the GSL pool as well, like the GSL map pool. It was like no other tournaments were running it, and yet the GSL were like, no, Dual Sight is a good map, it's balanced, we'll use it.
Same thing, by the way.
Guys, are you seriously still using this map?
Same thing, by the way, goes for Daybreak, in my opinion. I think that was also a little bit overused. It was a good map, though. Don't get me right. Don't get me wrong, but I think don't get me right. But I think eventually it lost its touch.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, maps are so important for how games play. I mean, a lot of matchups are very map dependent, and I think a lot of the playstyles stagnated on Daybreak because players were so used to playing on it. They knew the timings inside out, they knew the best bases to play, they knew the best compositions to go for, and as well as spectators of the game, you don't want to see the same map being played every season in, season out. You know, you want the variation. You want to see the pros getting tested by having different maps thrown at them.
Absolutely. Once again, Genius goes for that Nexus first there with the Forge behind that, so we might once again see a cannon rush here. I don't know if it works out on Yonsu as it works on Belshev's Teach, but the probe eventually will get spotted by those two links here. And the cannon rush, if there was even an attempt to do so, definitely failed there. Of course, not really putting Genius behind by any means. He already has his Nexus up, and it will even finish before the hatchery of Paranoid, so he's definitely in a very nice position.
Yeah, he really is. I like the fact that he threatens the cannon rush as well. Paranoid, actually, to his credit as well, sent a drone just to check around the mineral lines of the natural to see, because just looking at it, and you can see by the way that the cliffs are arranged, you could actually get a nice little cannon rush here and probably wall it off with some pylons as well. So there was the opportunity and the danger for that. Paranoid has placed two links outside the natural of Genius, so he's going to be able to keep tabs on that. The Forge being in base is nice. I like that touch, because it means that if Genius wants to rush an upgrade, it won't necessarily get scouted. One of the tips to like a 2-base time is, of course, you know, chrono boosted +1 upgrade at the start, but nothing of that so far. And there's actually an Overlord hovering over the main as well, so he's going to be able to see it whenever it goes down. Yeah,
absolutely. Behind all of that, of course, Paranoid is going to throw on his third base, which is pretty much just standard reaction facing a quickly expanding Protoss player with Forge first or Nexus first, as we saw here. Definitely should be able to defend that. Of course, he has to be still careful, because Genius once again might go for a gateway timing here to be able to bring that down.
Certainly has the ability and the strategy to be able to do that. Genius, known for mixing up his timings and mind gaming his opponents. If you haven't seen it before and you feel like spending some money, go and have a look at the finals between Dongre Gu and Genius in the GSL last year. That was a phenomenal series. Of course, that is Wings of Liberty, so if you're looking to learn Heart of the Swarm, then don't go anywhere near it. But if you're just in the interest of looking at good games, that was, of course, one of the good ones. Genius going for a really quick third base here, and I think an Overlord will come in and scout this as well. So with all these slow links from Paranoid coming up as well, going to be able to get a surround on this Zealot. He needs to be careful here, does Genius. He manages to pull his Stalker away, but this Zealot is in trouble. Plenty of links here, and the Zealot gets into a nice little corner. That's saved by a force field. excellent micro coming out from Genius there. That was so Gosu.
That definitely was really nice, saving that cell with just 8 HP. Very well done. They're not losing a single unit with dealing with all those links there. Very well done. Behind all of that, he will throw down 5 additional gateways, so that will make it a total of 6. Might also maybe throw down a Twilight Council here any moment, just to be able to get better units out of those gateways.
Yep, certainly could do. There are a lot of links coming up for round 2 though here. I saw 28 in production and Paranoid's currently sitting at 30 total. They come in and get a surround immediately on this photon cannon. There's only 2 sentries and a stalker out here for Genius. He's got a much able to put down a photon overcharge on the 3rd. So if we see that, I think that's quite possibly what we're going to see. But no, doesn't look like he wants to be able to try and save it. He does have the energy at the moment, but yeah, deciding not to. I think he's just going to sacrifice that base and make sure that he's got enough energy to plant one down at his natural, because he doesn't have much in the way of the military. Just a few sentries. Warps in plenty more though. Gone up to 6 sentries total now, and this is going to be able to clear out those links, but he did lose that 3rd base.
Yeah, absolutely. Losing that 3rd base is definitely not nice, and also getting a couple of links into your main base, so really not nice. And she will clear out the most of them, but with 2 more links dying to their cannon, it's actually already done here. Anyways, I think he might just... No, he's actually gonna rebuild it. Okay, I was just suggesting that he might actually just go for a 2-base all-in here. With all those gateways that he already has. Maybe just throw down 1 additional one and just go for it.
Yeah.
And, apparently once again rebuilding that 3rd base there. Because Lynx will spot that. So we might see round 2 of trying to breach that 3rd base down.
We certainly could do. I think it might even be round 3 by this point. I mean, just Paranoid really determined not to let his opponent get up to that kind of 3-base saturation. The probe count is pretty decent, sitting at 50. Meanwhile, for Zerg, the drone count is sitting at 66. So a relatively high drone count. Quite frequently, you'll see Zergs going up to crazy heights like 70, 80 plus. But no 4th is currently up. Oh, just as I say that, gets planted by Paranoid. Took the words out of my mouth. And he is researching +1/+1 for melee and carapace, obviously. Having said that, he's gone into roaches, so I'm confused. There's a huge Protoss army moving out though.
Yeah, I think he's just gonna get those roaches to be able to deal with that huge army that is now just moving into the 4th base, because as it is right now, we only see a couple of links that will go for the counter-attack, but eventually as they will arrive, there will be some warp-ins ready to be able to deal with them. And now, Genius is just gonna go into the main base. He might even seal the entrance here with a force field indeed. And is now just gonna go for it and will definitely do a lot of damage with basically no units actually there to defend that.
Very few units indeed. There is 1-1 on these Lings, but there's not a lot of tech out here at the moment. All units, in fact, able to deal with it. The Spire is halfway done, but will he even get a chance to use it? Plenty of Stalkers here going to be able to pick off a lot of these drones, working their way down on the roaches as well. Lets a few more Lings up, and actually there's a good surround come down now for Paranoid. He needs to be able to get that surround, and it looks like he's going to be able to clean up here, or at least really hemorrhage the Protoss army. Still a few units out for Genius though, and he's kept up the force fields at the natural ramp. That last one just dissipating now, but I think Paranoid is going to be able to finish the deal here. No, I take that back. 1 more force field going down, and there are plenty of units still able to do quite a bit of damage. In total, 20 drones have gone down, and now the recall comes back. Genius coming back to his base, and he's got plenty of army at home to be able to hold off any counter-attack.
Yeah, absolutely. That worked out very nicely for Genius. Killing off so many workers. He is actually almost is actually ahead now in terms of workers, so that definitely worked out perfectly for him. And now is also going to move up once again with almost blink stalkers. That's a new term there, I just made that up. Going to take out, or trying to take out, that 3rd base. In the meantime, we have a couple of roaches trying to breach into the main here. Will actually succeed in doing so, but with that Immortal there and the Photon Cannons, they should definitely be stopped eventually here.
Yeah, that Hero Immortal actually saves itself. It doesn't have any shields left, only 10 HP on the shields, but Immortals are good against roaches. I'm not sure if they're that good against roaches. Meanwhile, the 4th base does get taken out, and the Mutalisks, which we did see get spawned after having gone for that Spire, do a little bit of damage, but there goes the recall. Going back into his natural, going to be able to clear out these roaches, but the Mutalisks are out on the field, and Genius doesn't really have much in the way of pushing power at this point, so these Mutalisks have got a nice opportunity to be able to do a bit of damage and harassment.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, he has those blink stalkers, but with the endless mobility of those Mutalisks, they will just eventually outplay them. And of course photon cans are being thrown down to be eventually able to deal with them. But without Phoenix, he will definitely have a pretty hard time in doing so. Also, more links are being produced, trying to take out that third base. Also, the Mulists are trying to go with those Stalkers head to head. But eventually, there's just too many Stalkers, and they blink after those units, and eventually will take out most of them.
Yeah, certainly will. The Robo facility, it might be worth noting, actually got depowered for a very long time. It's only just been repowered, and it is getting a chrono-boosted Colossus being rushed out there. Mutalisk coming back into the main. There are 3 cannons here, 4 cannons in fact, going to be able to do some serious work on them. The Mutalisk don't finish off that one cannon, they get it into the red, but that cannon staying alive, having bagged a kill for itself as well. Well done, you. 2 Mutalisks being able to get taken out by cannons, and the Stalkers come up as well to be able to fend that off. Meanwhile, Genius pushing out across the map now with this little gateway force. A few Zealots here, but they're going to get cleaned up very quickly by the Lings. Plenty of Stalkers here being able to help out though in the back. And he's forcing Paranoid back here at this point. No proxies out, so he can't reinforce this quite so easily, but I would expect him to follow this up with more reinforcements. And yeah, there goes the Colossus coming up, more Stalkers on the way as well. So Genius really looking to finish off his opponent here and now, it seems.
Yeah, absolutely. But with 62 Lings in production right now for Paranoid, he's definitely having something against that. Once again, the Mulisks trying to get into that main here, but with those Stalkers blinking beneath them, they are going to be chased away here. More Colossi are being produced here. The second one also almost finishing here. And now he might be trying to get into that third base and maybe even taking it out and getting himself into a very nice position. But Paranoid, on the other hand, going for the counterattack.
Yeah, I really would approve of this decision. When you're going Ling Muta, you've got such great potency for going through these counterattacks. Your army is so mobile. Genius moves into the third base, going to be able to gut that very quickly. Meanwhile, Ling's in the third base of Genius doing some serious work as well. That's going to go down quickly. Mutalist sitting on top of the Stalk is going to power down with Colossus as well. There's a full recall comes down on the natural too, and Genius deciding that this is too important to risk. He has to save this base. I think he's going to be able to do it as well. Manages to keep one of his Colossi alive too, and he left a few units behind, just a few Zealots, and they did get the third base as well, so that's probably a fair trade for Genius in the end. He actually saved his own third Nexus too, crucially.
Yeah, that definitely was a very nice trade there for Genius. He's basically now 1 base ahead, which is probably one of the worst situations for a Zerg player. No, actually he's on equal basis because that fourth got rebuilt. Anyways, he's on equal basis. That is also not really good for a Zerg player.
No, it's not ideal, is it? I mean, you want to be, there's that old saying, Zerg needs to be, you know, a base up on your opponent because they need the econ. Paranoid's certainly going to be rebuilding that hatchery very quickly. There he does go and do that. And his army's still quite strong. If we look at the supplies, he's still got a comfortable supply lead, and this Mutalist ball is still just as threatening.
Yeah, but eventually those Mutalisks will just not work out because we have so many Blink Stalkers. 33 Stalkers against 21 Mutalisks right now. And the Zerglings won't just do the trick here. He needs something more, maybe even a couple of Ultrasks here to be able to deal with that. Or maybe even Roaches, because as it is right now, Mutaling just doesn't work out for him.
Hasn't worked out so far. He seems determined to make it try and work out, though, in the end, because he's continuing to make Mutalisks, because he's got 6 more in production, and now 12 more Lings, too, so he's comfortable on this composition. Does he have his Hive yet? No, he hasn't. He's still sat on Lair. So Ultralisks, if that's the end game plan, are a long way off at this stage. Meanwhile, there's a nice little group of Stalkers. I really like this, denying the mining at the 4th base position of Paranoid. This is going to really annoy him and just, yeah, hamper the mining time. They are, of course, Blink Stalkers, so they're going to be able to blink back as soon as they need to. Doing some serious work on this hatchery, though, getting it down into the yellow. Now they blink back. There is an observer there as well, so they're going to be able to pick off the units, the Lings there that are on the high ground. Some of the Lings run round as well, so they're going to be able to trap these Stalkers and do some work on them. Meanwhile, Paranoid is positioning his main army outside of the natural of Genius. Genius might just miss this completely as the Mutalisks come in and they punch through one pylon. Plenty of Lings running up into the natural, and I think a lot of probes are going to go down here. Meanwhile, Genius counters the back here with plenty of Blink Stalkers as well, and Archons out to deal with the Lings. The Lings are dying so quickly, but Mutalisks are now running into the main base. Yeah,
but there are so many Stalkers and also cannons there to be able to deal with them. They will not get too much done here. More and more Stalkers arrive at the scene. Slowly but steadily decrease that Mutalisk numbers, but at the same time we had a couple of Zerglings in the 3rd base of Genius as well, who drops now down to 17 workers, 18 now. That is not really good compared to 52 drones of Paranoid. But he still has the supply lead. No, he hasn't. I'm confused today, but he has the bigger army, 107 to 97 army supply. So he's just gonna go for it, maybe even pulling the drones here. And just wants to end this right here, right now.
Yeah, he certainly does. The majority of Paranoid's army going for that counter-attack, immediately go for the base race. I think that's the best choice. And Genius just kind of getting pulled about across the map, here and there. Is he going to try and recall at this point? There's the Lings coming in as well. There's the massive recall, and of course Paranoid just immediately books it.
Yeah, absolutely. Those recalls have been saving Genius so far. Imagine if he had no mothership core at this point, he would have just died a long time ago. Because Mutiling is just such a mobile army composition. You can basically always go for counterattacks. Even if you're like in your main base and then you just see the Protoss walking up to your third, just go, oh well, counterattack. Anyways, now Protoss once again walks into the fourth base here, trying to take that out. Will also eventually get a lot of workers. The hatchery will fall, and Genius once again pulling back here because he knows Paranoid once again going for the counterattacks here. 8 no Mutas are in production. But with all those Archons at the moment, he definitely has to be extremely careful not to clump them up.
Yeah, he really does. Needs to be careful not to clump them up. I think the Mutalisk ball is going to get scary sized at this point, though. I mean, if he keeps on preserving them, he's currently at 27, he's got 11 more in production. Once he hits like 40 to 50 Mutalisks, things get a lot scarier. They don't have any upgrades, which is, you know, to Genius's advantage, who's currently sitting at 3-0. But they could certainly be a problem, especially if it does go into that base trade. Genius working like crazy to get his probe count back up to a kind of a healthy number. It's currently sitting at 27, having lost so many. Currently, the workers killed tab, it's looking at
63 to 31.
63 to 31. So yeah, not a good day to be a harvester this match, unfortunately. Big Stock is coming into the third base now. They're going to look to finish this off really quickly.
Look at the Mutalisk sniping the mothership core, so no more recalls available here for Genius, meaning that he cannot get back here, and Paranoid is free to go for as many counterattacks, aggressions as he wants here. Of course, already starting off here with going into that third base, but there are already a couple of Archons. The natural, not so much defended, will take out that Nexus here eventually. And Genius is a little bit into two minds here, not really knowing if what to do here, to go back or just to go for it. But I think he might eventually just go for it here. Don't know if that is the right decision. He eventually has the bigger army, but I think if it comes to a base race, Paranoid would just win.
Yeah, there we go though. Paranoid thinks he can take on these Archons, magic boxing over the top of them. They go down so quickly, the high DPS of these Mutalisks working on them. Meanwhile, the big army from Genius has come back and it has somewhat cornered this army. Those Mutalisks need to get out of there relatively quickly, but they are deciding to stand and fight, and I don't think there are actually enough Mutalisks, despite a big number of them, to be able to finish this off. And there goes the Blink as well, and many Mutalisks gotten taken out here. And if we look at the supplies, Genius just took a lead.
Yeah, absolutely, but sitting at 8 workers is not really good, and also pretty much he has one mining base, since his main is basically almost mined out, only a couple of minerals remain there. And the Mutalisks are still not done yet. They will once again try to take out as many workers as possible. And Paranoid is just gonna take his bases 4 and 5 at the moment, since the fourth and no, it's actually 3 and 4, since both the third and the fourth base have been taken out. Of course, therefore also reducing his own income. But still, I think he's in the better position. The only thing he has to fear about now is the Protoss army. But with that being split up into 2 parts here, I think he should be able to deal with one and then just take on the other one.
Yeah, I agree with you. And this is the disadvantage of losing your mothership core and not having phoenixes. You know, you just get, eventually you get pulled apart by the Mutalisks that are able to exercise such great mobility. And here we go, Genius trying to come into the natural here, but all the Mutalisks are bunched up, and I don't think Genius is going to be able to combat this with just this few many Stalkers and Archons. I think there we go, that already one Archon is taken out, the second one's going to go down very quickly. I don't think he's got enough Stalkers here to be able to finish Paranoid's army off. And yeah, we see the Mutalisks powering through these Stalkers, and the Colossus is going to go down very quickly as well. And I think we ought to see a GG coming up very soon here out of Genius.
It's definitely not over yet, but it will be quite hard here for Genius to get back into that game. I mean, looking at the workers, it's currently basically even, also in terms of income. Actually, Genius is ahead with 200, 400 to 40, 128. But still, those Mutalisks are pretty much the counting thing right now, and with 20 few Mutalisks, Paranoid is just basically uncontested. Eventually, if he ends up losing them, I think the game might very well turn around. But as it is right now, Paranoid is definitely in the commanding position.
It is. I mean, anytime Genius steps out of his front door, there goes the base race, and the Mutalist is going to be able to pick off more buildings. Genius has nothing really to combat this effectively. He's lost his big army. Meanwhile, Paranoid's continuing to make Mutalists. You are correct about the income, though. Not great for either player, and currently Paranoid only sitting at 21 drones, and compared to that, just the 12 probes out of Genius, losing a few more now. And Paranoid's done a great job depowering all of these gateways. He can get the Templar Archives if he wants it. He does actually fly past it. Probably going to look to take it out in the near future as well. Yeah, I mean, Paranoid is going to have to make a serious blunder if he's going to throw this game.
Yeah, absolutely. Those Mutalisks are just so good right now. We see 16 more Zerglings being produced here. And I think eventually with those spawning, I think Paranoid might be able to end this game. He's just sniping so many pylons right now. But since Genius just has 60 supply, he will have to snipe many more in order to get him actually supply blocked. Will eventually lose one Mutalisk right now, but that is not really too much. And I think from here on out, it's Paranoid's game to throw away.
Yeah, it definitely is. Archon's getting a couple of shots off at the Mutalisks, but he's done a good job of preventing the clumping and magic boxing when he can. I think his Mutalist control so far has been fantastic. This base up at the 9 o'clock position, you might say, has been a saving grace for Paranoid. He's been able to get a decent amount of mining going on there, and his income is picking up now as well, currently dwarfing Geniuses in the mineral count, and that's what's enabling him to really seal the deal here. Links coming up into the natural. They're not going to engage that army. That's too many Stalkers and Zealots and Archons. But the Mutalist by Converse coming into the third base, going to take out a few more probes as well. Paranoid not quite able to finish his opponent off though, so the longer it goes on, Genius will slowly but surely claw his way in, I feel. It all depends on whether Paranoid can just continue to do such a great job of pulling his opponent into pieces.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, eventually Genius might be able to recover from that, but with barely any income, I don't think it's gonna happen. I think he just threw down the DT shrine here, but I think that one got shut down by all those links. And there we go, there's the GG. Paranoid takes the series and actually takes out Genius here.